Right, so here we have an unboxing of a Mobula6 Lite and a Mobula7 Lite. I'm also going to compare them against the original Mobula6 and something that I knocked up myself around 2 years ago. So we'll be doing the weight comparison, that sort of thing. Firstly, Mobula6. So you get the quad, you get 4 batteries. I've put 2 extra in here because they came from the Mobula6. I got a spare frame with mine. You get a really terrible 1S charger. You get a set of instructions. You get 2 of these stickers included, and then you get a bag with 4 spare props, 2 elastic band, like loom band type things. I'll show you what they're for. Get some spare screws, a screwdriver that fits them very well, and a prop tool, which is the most useless cheese prop tool ever. So the bands that it comes with are to put across the bottom of here, and it just helps your battery to hold in this tray. So that's a nice inclusion. It's good to see that they've got the thicker wire on here. That's nice. 22 gauge wire seems to offer the best voltage drop to before you start compromising the weight of the wire for sort of diminishing returns. The props are the Gemfan 1219 tri-blades. They seem to work very well. They're 19,000 kV motors. The board that's on it is the 5-in-1, so it's a VTX, a receiver, the ESCs, and the flight controller, all on one board. And then there's just a plug on it, on the back in there, and that goes to the camera, which is a Runcam Nano 4. Now, the angle that this comes at is pretty steep, which suits me quite well because I tend to fly it pretty fast around the track. However, you might struggle flying that around your house if you're not very accustomed to flying these things at a ridiculous pace. So that's something to bear in mind, because that is where the camera wants to sit. As soon as you start flying it, it will fall back into that position no matter where else you set it. A lot of people have been putting glue and things on there, so that would make sense. The receiver antenna, as you can see there, really long. I had absolutely no issues with the reception on that. Same with the VTX. Even with the antenna pushed like that, it gives you a good enough reception. Love how light it is. The quad compares very well to the Mobula6 with the 25,000 kV motors in sort of power to weight ratio. How when it's going around the track, it climbs very similarly, but with a much increased flight time. So that's lovely to see. So from a weight perspective, with no batteries or anything, let's try and put it on. Don't know if that's weighing it properly. Oh, that's gone to 0. Right. Yeah, I think that was on adequately. So it weighs 18.69 grams, this one. Then a battery weighs, let's turn it to 0. A battery is going to come in at 7.7, just for comparison's sake. Yeah, pretty close, 7.7. So when you put the two together with the quad, 18.7 plus the battery, you're looking at almost bang on 25 grams, which is very light indeed. Hence the performance. Now I'm going to struggle to show you what's in a Mobula7 Lite. It's got the same terrible charger, but comes with 2 650 mAh batteries instead. and I haven't been able to fly this because it's got a faulty motor. So in here there's two sets of props because I've had to take the whole thing apart and all of the screws. Over here you've got the Runcam Nano 4. So what we can actually do, because it's taken apart, is we can weigh that separately. Wow, and that's coming in only 1.87 grams. 1.88 grams. So I've taken off the 3D printed mount, and that's coming out in at 0.57 grams. So if you were thinking of taking this off and hot gluing it, that's something to bear in mind, how much hot glue is going to weigh in comparison. The camera itself is coming in at 1.3 grams, and you can see on it, it's actually got a lip as though it's designed to be held by this particular 3D printed mount. So that's good to see, potentially a bit of collaboration going on there between the companies. So there's not a great deal to show you with that, because I've had to take the whole thing apart to try and work out which motor or which ESC was broken, and it turned out that the ESC in position 2 for motor 2, the ESC on the board isn't working. So once I transposed motors 2 and 4, there was still nothing working at motor 2, even though motor 4 was a serviceable motor. So I can't show you the weights or anything for that one, but I can compare the weights for a Mobula6 original. So here's how I had my Mobula6 set up. So I'd changed the power cable and I'd changed the connector to a right angled one. Other than that, it's pretty much stock. The loom band that's on the front removed quite a bit of the jello, so that's still on there from the last year. So that weighs almost exactly 20 grams. So you are saving about a gram, 2.7 grams. No, there we go, right, that wasn't sat properly. So we've got the whole weight on it this time. So 18.7, so you're saving 1.3 grams. So is it worth the vulnerability of having your flight controller and everything exposed? Not to mention the extra heat that's got to be dissipated through a smaller surface area. Is it worth it? That's the real question. And from my flying so far, I would say, yeah, it is. I've had over 2 hours of actual stick time of aggressive indoor flying, many crashes, haven't damaged anything. You can see wear on the propellers from where it's been upside down, turtle moding, which, another thing, turtle mode works perfectly fine. I haven't had any issues with the antenna getting trapped in anything. It seems to be perfectly happy sticking out over there. I haven't damaged the camera, because it seems like the mount with the foam at the back of it, when the camera hits things, it just kind of moves it out of the way and then pops it back to where it wants to be. So that's brilliant. But going down to flight performance, this quad flies almost exactly the same as this one. So one of the tracks we're flying has a big steep climb in it. So you go down a long straight, you do a U-turn with a quick climb, and the two quads performed very similarly on this steep climb, which was interesting. So one final comparison, this is what I and everybody who I know used to fly, and that comes in at, wow, 22.3 grams. So that is an F3 board. It's got 19,000 kV motors. The props are the same. It's obviously got a very heavy camera. It's got a heavy canopy on it. That's it. Oh, the frame. This frame will never ever break. It's had about 20 hours put through that frame, and I haven't had to do any repairs. But for the difference between this and a Mobula6 is 2.3 grams plus the extra 1.3 for this, so you're looking 3.3 grams between that and that. Now, that is an absolutely massive difference between the two. So I'm going to continue flying this. I'm going to do a few very minor modifications. I'm probably going to leave the TPU mount because I'm actually quite happy with it. I would kind of like to maybe move the antenna. It's tricky trying to work out where it would be best to place it, but I mean, they've almost got it perfect here. In order to use the stick batteries rather than the ones that I've got here with the long wire on the end of them, I'm gonna have to, the same as I have done on these two, put a 90-degree connector onto the end of it, and then that will allow the wire to be as short as possible, so you're going to reduce your voltage drop and you're going to reduce your weight even further than where it is right now. This piece of heat shrink, I wouldn't bother with that. That's an unnecessary, very small amount of unnecessary weight, but weight is weight. We're trying to get it as light as possible, so we are using, to gain the maximum performance, where's the battery? I found the 260 milliamp hour GMBs. They've got a brilliant weight to performance ratio. Now your flight time won't be as long, but if you've got a lot of batteries, it doesn't really matter. You can have them on the charger as the next one comes off anyway, so it doesn't really matter.